Welcome back, listeners, to the Roanoke Presents From Print to Podcast. Today's a special day featuring a bonus episode with Julia Boas, Director of Talent Strategies at Roanoke Regional Partnership. Julia, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
So glad to have you. We're very excited to talk about the Roanoke Regional Partnership, Get to Know Noke, that's 2 with a 2, the number 2, by the way, we were talking about that, as well as the Experience Conference Reimagined for Professionals, Innovators and Changemakers, taking place on May 2 and 3, 2024. So that's coming up, and we're really excited to talk about that.
It's coming up very soon.
Very quickly.
I know.
But we're going to chat all about all the things that listeners are going to want to know about, because this is going to be really, really fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thanks again so much for having us to talk about it, because we're excited and we want everybody to know about it.
Hey, anything to cheerlead our community on, for sure.
Indeed.
So obviously I'm just excited to share with listeners, not only because of the exciting ways that you're bringing our community together, but the Roanoke Magazine is going to be hosting a very special podcast episode during the event. So more on that to come. We'll talk about that later, but a little sneaky peek for listeners.
I like it.
So let's learn what this conference is, who it is for, and so much more. So tell us, who is this conference for exactly?
Yeah, so some people might remember the Experience Conference. It did happen in the past, and it had some big impacts pre-pandemic, and they were getting hundreds of attendees coming. But just like everything else in the world, it sort of everything went virtual and then kind of petered off. And so this is really the first time that we're having it in a big way, like we used to do pre-pandemic. And we sort of wanted to reimagine it, because we're like, we have an opportunity here to like make it be whatever we want it to be as a community. So we actually brought together like 20 to 25 regional organizations, whether they're like professional clubs or people like United Way who do more like nonprofit charity work, as well as economic developers, people in the innovation sector, down with Virginia Tech Carilion and Fralin Biomedical and Roanoke Blacksburg Technology Council, people like that, to really have it be something that inspires people for what the community could be, what we're already doing that's really exciting that you might not know about. There's so many people doing great work in the Roanoke region. And that's one of the things that I think people don't realize. They always say, I wish somebody was doing this. And I always want to be like, there's actually 17 people working on that.
That is so funny. I have this argument, this rant all the time about everybody wants to start their own thing. And I commend that, certainly. It is not easy to start your own business or organization or whatever. But some people don't realize that there are a lot of organizations or groups or people already doing some of the things that they're doing, and they need the help. They need your help. They need your innovation to come in.
And have been doing it for a long time.
And it's great to bring those people together instead of making it feel like you're off in a silo doing it all alone by yourself.
Yeah. And since I've only been in the talent attraction, talent strategies role for the partnership for about a year and a half now, although I worked with them at Roanoke Outside and in different respects there for the Blue Ridge Marathon, Go Fest, all of that good stuff. But I feel like since I've been in this position, I'm just learning a ton, and also like herding the cats. That way, when people do come up to me saying like, I want to do this and I want to do this, and I wish we had more of that, instead of, I'm sort of like, okay, well, there's these guys doing this version of it and these guys doing that. And so you can break it down and be like, figure out where you want to plug in, and like, let's really combine our efforts to where everybody's not duplicating things. Everybody's not, like you said, starting something new when there's people who need support already. So that's been one of my big efforts, is to like, let's get us organized. Let's get us better organized as a community so that we can be more impactful and more effective. I
love that. Have you been surprised in your role as to something maybe you learned recently in this role, like a new organization or a new, a new thing that was like, wow, I had no idea. What a cool thing to learn.
Yeah. Well, we would need like pot to podcast for like 3 weeks for me to cover everything that I've learned in the last year and a half. I think that the thing that I've learned is there's a lot more tools for entrepreneurs, small business owners, people who are maybe struggling to find employment or things like that. There are federal, state, regional, local level, incentives, programs that'll pay for you to go to school, that'll pay for you to upskill, and really develop and change your career and change your life. And I just think so many people are unaware of those opportunities, and they're missing out. Yeah. So, we're actually developing a new website right now for Get to Know Noke that we're hoping will just streamline and funnel a lot of these people to those resources. Cool. Because a lot of them they're kind of governmenty, they're like, they don't know how to market themselves. And
or they don't have the budget to.
And they don't have the budget or the resources or all the other things, but they have good programs. And so we want to have all these like resource pages where you can go find every single link, whether you are a job seeker or an employer who's also looking for support recruiting or things like that. So that's the big picture takeaway that I think that we've been working to address so that we can just get, again, a little bit more organized and collaborated and where it's easy for people to find that information. And they don't have to go to 35 different governmenty websites that aren't helpful and probably not updated. And so that we can, streamline that for them.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. That's going to be really helpful when you guys are able to launch that. And so in thinking about, again, kind of who it's for, I went to several of the conferences previously, pre-COVID, 100 years ago, and really enjoyed it. And it was so great to see sort of the diversity, not just across like lifestyle and age, but just the industry. I think that that's really interesting that we're going to talk about speakers and some of the topics.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to note that this event is not just for a 22-year-old straight out of college.
No.
Right? This is for anybody. Again, you've mentioned employers too. This isn't just for job seekers, but also people who are looking for people to help them with their
Exactly.
things.
And we developed it with intention, and we thought as a group, all the different organizations that are helping to put this on, of like what those buckets were that we thought were the most important. And so we kind of came up with 4 categories or 4 tracks. Like if you go to the website, it'll say there's 4 different tracks. There's the change makers, the innovators, the career builders, and then the sort of talent spotters, recruiters. And so basically what that means is like change maker, and people can go to any of the sessions. It's not like you pick a track and you have to stay just in that one. But it was more of like how we were thinking about the content that we were developing, more so than the like that you have to stay in one track. So the change makers, it could be anyone from like policymakers to city planners to people who work for economic development or governments, all the way to like developers or, people who are wanting to develop different, community elements or actual like physical properties. And really just to showcase what's already happening. Like Ed Walker will be there. He is the CEO of Riverdale and has done a lot of other transformative
just a couple things around Roanoke,
Roanoke and beyond, Daleville, all the exciting kind of historical restoration things. And I feel like every time I hear him, I'm always like jazzed for what the future holds.
Me too. He was on a cover like a while back, and so he's funny. I think he avoids us now because he doesn't want to be put on a cover again because he's pretty modest from what I understand. And like, it's funny because I've known about this guy since I moved here 1,000 years ago. So to see him still be such an important, integral part of the community is fantastic. And for him to give back in the way that he's doing by speaking to attendees and guests at this event is really cool.
Yeah. And I think that we'll all learn a lot more about like what the future of Riverdale looks like and what their big vision for the project is, but that you can also ask questions, like there'll be Q&A times with all of the keynotes. So like you can actually, if you've had a question in your mind this whole time, you can actually speak to the people who are doing these big transformational projects.
Yeah. I love, and it's funny because I don't know how many people you anticipate coming, like what the venue like max is, obviously, because the way that you've got it is really cool. You can kind of walk around different venue spaces and things. But like, it's not every day that you get to go to a conference like this and be able to speak to a keynote speaker and ask your questions and have them genuinely interested. Like I remember years ago, and they would sit down with you at your table. You had questions. You had a great question. Let's talk about that. And like, what a great experience for somebody, especially when I was brand new to the area, didn't really know like a whole lot about what I wanted to do in my career at that point. Like, what a great opportunity.
Yeah, and it makes you feel, I think, really invested
yes.
in where you live.
Yes.
And for me, that's been the highlight of living here, is that I feel like I am invested and I get to continuously, through my work, give back to the place that I live, and where my family lives.
Yeah.
So
it's perfect. We love to cheerlead the area. So we're going to get into a few of the topics in just a minute. But let's talk about the speakers. So we've talked about Ed Walker.
Yep.
But we also have 3 other really amazing speakers. They're going to be applying their talents here. And so we have Patience Fairbrother. She's the VP of Talent Attraction at DCI.
Yep.
And so I'm really excited to hear her talk.
Yeah, so this is like totally my wheelhouse. So I must say this one was selfish a little bit for me because they put out the DCI Developers Council International or something like like that. They put out an annual report called the Talent Wars. And essentially it dives really deep into national and global trends around like what motivates people to move, what's motivating Gen Z people when they're selecting a career, like what are the steps that say, like, one of the trends that I remember from their last Talent Wars was that, a person, like 60% of people visit a location as a tourist before they decide to move there.
Sure.
So like making sure that we're integrating tourism efforts with talent attraction efforts, like that's just one example, but it's literally like a 50-page document. And so she's going to be going through those highlights, and she's going to be unpacking them though, and also putting sort of like a Roanoke region, Southwest Virginia spin on what that data looks like or means for us as a region in particular, and what recruiters, employers, companies can be doing to change their strategy, their marketing and recruiting strategy, as well as things like retention, or what makes that one even kind of applies to like the change maker, policy maker, because it showcases a lot of like what makes a place somewhere that someone wants to live, and what should we be investing in as a community? Because, a lot of times people and government people, in particular politicians, are hesitant to invest in things like green spaces or greenways, or even like bigger transformational projects like an Elmwood Park or like an amphitheater type space.
You mean all those things that worked out in our favor?
Yeah. But they still, every single time you want to have that, that conversation comes up, nobody wants to spend the money. And you're just like, well, that's the reason people live here. And if you want to keep convincing people to move here, you can't stop, because our competition isn't stopping.
Yeah.
And when you watch the cities that we call our benchmark, comparison cities like Chattanooga or Greenville or things like that, they aren't stopping.
Right.
And they're outbuilding us and out investing us at almost every turn.
Right. And if we want Roanoke to continue to grow and bring people great talent in, then that's what we have to continue to invest
Exactly.
in. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I can't wait to hear about that, because, as an employer, I mean, that's really interesting to see like what's going to bring you here and make you stay, make you move here.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
And Gen Z people, what motivates them is really different than like millennials,
right?
And an elder millennial myself.
Me too.
They have different things that we might not ever think of that are the reason that they choose to go to an employer.
Right.
And I think she'll be touching on a lot of that stuff.
Because you hear, like right now, you hear experience. It's all about the experience. But like, what does that mean? How does that break down? So that's really cool that she'll be able to kind of point that out.
Yeah.
That's really neat. Okay. And then another presenter we have is Rishi Jaitley, founder of the Institute for Leadership in Technology at Virginia Tech. That sounds super important.
Yeah. It does. I would like to hear more about specifically what they do, but I mean, he was also for Google and YouTube. He was the VP of their efforts in like India and Asia.
Holy cow,
and,
big markets.
Big markets. And he led those markets. He's also started like several companies himself. From what I gather and from what I've read, and watched from his other speeches on like YouTube and stuff, is that it's about he really cares about making sure that we keep the human at the center of things like AI and all the other technologies that are out there. Like technology is moving at a faster pace than ever before. Yep. And so as people are being educated and trained on these different types of technologies, he wants to make sure like keep the human benefit at the center of everything you do. If it's not benefiting society and us as a whole, then we shouldn't be creating it. We shouldn't be developing it.
Well, I agree. I don't need the robot to take over.
Yeah,
so,
it's almost like ethics and technology, from what I gathered. But I don't know if that's true. So hopefully he can enlighten us more.
No, that's brilliant. I hope he brings that to the table. But obviously, anything he brings to the table will be awesome. So
and he sort of fits more in that innovators track, like what we developed with the Roanoke Blacksburg Technology Council and those folks, as well as the next speaker, which I'll let you introduce.
Right. So we talked about Ed Walker, transformative developer and CEO of Riverdale Southeast LLC. And obviously, if you're in Roanoke, you've seen his name, you know his name, you know him, you love him, Ed Walker.
Yeah. he's gonna be great.
Yeah, he's going to be awesome. So we'll skip to our last speaker, Marty Weiner, founding engineer at Pinterest and former CTO at Reddit. Now, I have slight obsession with Pinterest, and my husband's on Reddit all the time looking at sports things.
Well, you can blame Marty for both of your obsessions.
I think that's
you can
awesome.
blame Marty.
Like the fact that somebody of that kind of caliber and intelligence and experience is coming to hang out with us for a couple days. It's really neat.
So I got to see him at a conference in Charlottesville because he moved to Charlottesville when he retired. He's our age, or he's my age.
Yeah, you told me he was retired, and I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. And then I saw his picture, and I was like, what?
Wait, he's like
you
40 years old.
Yeah. 40? Oh, my God. Anyway.
Well, if you made $1 gazillion off Pinterest and Reddit, he does have a consulting firm to help tech companies make it to IPO that he still does, as far as I know. But what I saw him speak on was really the first, I felt like, meaningful conversation around AI and what it means for the future that I've maybe the only one I've heard so far. Like, I feel like I hear a lot of like chatter about AI that you're just like, yeah, like, I get it, like they might take some jobs and everybody's going to be automated, but like, it just feels like the same talking points and not really like getting at the root of why and where it came from and what it means. And so he broke it down in a way that I really appreciated. And he's also funny, which is nice, because anything that's like wrapped in humor, then I'm much more likely to pay attention.
Yeah, not be confused and glazed over.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not dry at all. Yeah. Very interesting and humorous. And so, I hope everyone will come and, gain those insights from him.
Well, that's awesome. And then, of course, you have the people that you're going to meet, here are going to be fantastic. It's not just about the speakers either. It's about, your team coming together and the organizations that you're partnering with, and all the attendees and guests are going to be able to meet with them and get one-on-one time and learn more about how they can contribute to our community. So that's really cool.
Yeah. So there's the 4 keynotes, but there's like 35 other sessions.
Those are the top tops.
Yeah, those are the top tops. Like Goodwill is going to be talking about like their Melrose project. United Way is talking about like how to make an impact in your community. And each of these people also has like, 3 to 5 panelists that are experts in their own right coming in to join them for these conversations. So you really are going to be able to talk to like the people in our region that are making an impact right now, doing big things, and not only just hear from them, but potentially learn how you could get engaged and become a bigger part of your community and feel good about, what you're doing on a day-to-day basis.
I love all this. This is so exciting. And so let's talk about the tracks for a quick minute. We talked about some of the topics. So we have Changemaker, Career Builder, Talent Spotters, and Innovators. I mean, you got to find a place for yourself in one of those things, certainly.
Yes.
But like you said, you can attend any and all of them, as many as you can squeeze in. And so under Changemaker, some topics might include what attracts Gen Z to move, sort of like what we were talking about a few minutes ago. Show off your city, lessons from social media influencers, obviously a big deal in our area where so many people are taking great photos and copy of our mountains and regions.
Yeah, and some people are turning it into a business too. So, it can be a job or it can be a hobby.
Yeah, and then you have America's Friendliest Bike Town. Well, duh. I mean, come on. And then Why I Moved to Roanoke, the power of an invested community and creating vibrancy through the arts. I mean, those are great topics to cover. And obviously there's so many more things that we'll be kind of diving into within those topics.
And the vibrancy for the arts one is a cool one too, because I feel like we've all been seeing so much more from like Arts Roanoke and all the murals that have been going out, and they've been doing a really good job of keeping people informed, which I appreciate. To me, like, that's the first battle. Is like, if you can inform people about why something matters and how it has an economic impact. And I just learned recently that, yesterday, I heard a stat that arts and entertainment is one of the top 2 fastest growing economic drivers for our region, as far as like job, like employment, as well as economic impact and how much money is being made from those entities. So.
Well, I know Doug Jackson is doing some really incredible work through that arts program. We are actually, this is a total selfish side note, but we're excited to partner with the Arts Commission. We're going to be doing a juried show of our cover stories. And so artists from all over will be able to do that. And we're going to have a juried art show later this fall. Actually, I know it's like a million miles away right now while we're speaking. But at the
It'll be Roanoke here tomorrow.
Building, right? I know. Oh my gosh. But it's just to show that like I see that impact that it has on the community. And we really wanted to get in on that, like while people were thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's just really really exciting.
And it's funny because it's like the art space project, which is kind of tied into that, is like also tied into like what's going to happen at Riverdale. And, you know, it all just sort of comes back around full circle. And also it matters a lot to me in the talent attraction space because it's one of the top things that motivates people when it comes to like having a beautiful community, beautiful things around you.
Right.
And that means like green spaces, but it also means arts. And that's what motivates people to move.
I love that because it's sort of funny when you drive home to Roanoke and you see the star. That's how I know I'm home, right?
Yeah.
And now I get to see the beautiful murals downtown, like just right there off the highway. Like, that's wild to me.
You can see them.
That it's not just a brick building anymore, and that really pulls you in and invites you to come downtown or come to the neighborhood or whatever it is to come and see
it changes
more
the entire space.
Absolutely.
Yeah, something is, I mean, not simple because it looked like it was hard to do, but, you know, simple in the grand scheme of things, just paint and someone with talent, and it can change everything.
Yeah, amazing. So that was the Changemaker topics. Then we can go into Career Builder. So we have topics such as professional communicating and networking, speed networking, 3D fabrication, entrepreneurship, resume building, and what is your elevator pitch? I've been hearing about elevator pitches since the day I graduated college. So I love that. I think it's so funny. This is still like the Gen Z's got to know what an elevator pitch is, not just me.
Not just you. And those things like honestly never change when it comes to the foundations of being just a good professional. Like you have the hard skills that you have to learn to like get the job done.
Right.
But the soft skills are equally as important. And that's what a lot of the career builder stuff is focused around. We're working with some NACE is what it's called, but the National Association of College and Employers facilitators. So that's an organization that basically like took the skills that were lacking from people who graduated from college, you know, and the employers and the educators like work together to kind of come up with this curriculum of like what's missing. And so this is that little in-between space where a lot of times people need to develop those skills and continue working on them throughout their, you know, the early part of their career. But honestly, like it's still something that I work on to this day.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. I mean, it's not just about like being a salesperson and going to a networking event.
No.
Like that is, you're going to find, it's funny, I was speaking at a school the other week and talking about writing. So I write fiction on the side. And so the kids are like, how do you find a cover designer? How do you find an editor? And I was like, it's networking. It's you have to be open to relationships, to finding people that fit what your need is. I mean, and that's really important, A, to build your business or whatever it is that you're doing, but B, to build the community impact, right? Because you're going to help each other and then that ripple effect's just going to keep going.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, talent spotter topics. These are really good ones too. So we have communicating with Gen Z. I think I need that one. Capitalizing on remote workers, another good one. We're in a hybrid remote situation, so that's not going away anytime soon. So I love that topic's there. Talents with DCI talent strategist Patience Fairbrother with our keynote speaker. We also have second chance hiring, Justice Effect Talent, and the Goodwill Melrose Plaza Project Reveal, which is what you had mentioned earlier. What a great thing.
Yeah, I was at the ribbon cutting for that, and there was some really people that made an impact on me when they were speaking. Like I literally was crying. I'm not going to lie. Just because, you know, there's been pain and they're acknowledging it and they're doing something about it. And I do think that this is a transformational project, just like Riverdale, although in a totally different regard. But even just you drive through that area and the beautification work that they've done with like the trees and the sidewalks and things like that just makes it feel like a neighborhood. Like that's something that's long overdue.
Right.
And so are a lot of the other things that they're doing with that project. And it's going to be so much more than just a building and a space. Like the programming that they have planned for inside of that building is equally as important, if not more so, to providing the support to lift up, you know, residents here in the Roanoke region.
And again, showing the city and the organizations in the city our commitment to the neighborhoods, the investment in the community too. So that's really important.
For sure.
Awesome.
And there's more there, which we've added to the website. I won't go into the details, but some of those have tweaked and we're continuing to add and tweak some of the topics.
What to say? I just got these.
I know. Well,
no, that's good. That's great.
They're updated on the app, but I'm now I have to
which we'll talk about. We're going to talk about the app. The last topic I have is innovators, and so I I'm going to try not to curse on the podcast, but it's holy bleep, the future of AI, which I love. I definitely want to attend that one for sure, especially because it's going to be a deeper dive than that kind of 101.
Yeah, so that's about. Marty. I told you he was funny. He likes to keep you guessing.
I love the title. You had me from the first curse word it's in. We also have Regional Innovators, 5-minute speed shares with RBTC, biotech ecosystem plans at the New Virginia Tech CRC building, what's the superpower of the future? Ooh, I like that question. And building the economy through innovation. And so those seem like really big kind of high level topics that people will be able to really think about.
Yes. And so, they're going to be talking about tech and biotech and innovation and the people who are here doing the work right now. But also Roanoke Region, for those of you that aren't aware, was announced as part of the Virginia's Research Triangle. So, they're trying to kind of follow the lead and put their money where their mouth is when it comes to developing high-level research and basically become, like a knowledge center for the country where we can be developing some of the most innovative biotechnology stuff in the region. And honestly, I am not the expert, so you shouldn't be asking me about it, but that's my very high level overview
I
of
know
what
we
that
have the
means.
right businesses and organizations to lead the way.
But there will be people, that can give you a deeper dive into what that means for us as a community, the huge economic impact that it's already having, but that its growth will continue to create for our region, as well as like really high paying jobs and also meaningful things for the whole world when it comes to health and things like that.
When you put it like that, you're thinking about this is our local level, but on a national thought scale. That's a big deal.
Well, Fralin Biomedical, I think 50 of their most recent employees, granted, please don't quote me on these stats. Again,
technology changes. It'll be old by tomorrow.
Come to the sessions if you want to get the real numbers, but are from all over the world. They're international. So we're pulling international scientists to our region because of the assets that have been developed here at the Innovation Corridor. And they're going to be giving you a lot more information about what that means if you're in the world of of tech, biotech, innovation.
That's
then
so cool.
Don't miss those.
I hope there's a Nobel somewhere in the future for Roanoke's area.
With
that kind of crew.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, exactly. You had mentioned the app, so let's talk about this because this is a new app that is live currently.
It's live. You could go download it. Experience Conference Roanoke. There are some other ones, so you got to type Roanoke in there.
Cool. Well, we'll make sure. So, listeners, we're going to make sure to list all the links and stuff that we're talking about, and so you'll be able to find it on the website where this podcast will live. But it sounds like really cool. Like obviously, we're talking about how to integrate technology into our everyday lives. Into smarter, better ways that aren't just me scrolling Pinterest. Sorry, Marty.
Yeah.
But I think that that's a really great way to keep people, sort of invested in what they're doing and where am I going today and what am I doing and what am I learning?
Yeah. And you can engage with other people and like build a profile. So that way, if you meet somebody new while you're there and you want to, exactly. And like you want to follow up on it, then it'll be easy for you to do so. And really, it's just an organizational tool. Like you can search through the days, you can add things to like your sessions, kind of favorite them so that it will remind you so you don't miss something, as well as like tell you where all the locations are because we have like 10 different locations throughout downtown Roanoke.
Well, we haven't even talked about that part. So let's do a real quick, how are they going to be experiencing this?
Yeah. Well, so we will have 2 hubs. The Thursday, May 2nd hub will be at the Taubman, and the Friday, May 3rd hub will be at the Hotel Roanoke. So like the big keynotes will be at those larger venues. But then we wanted to break out and showcase a lot of the really cool spaces where you could be hosting your own things that maybe people don't, think about. Some of them are the Dumas Center, which is recently renovated and now available for use. The Eye Planetarium at the Center in the Square, which I've actually never been inside of, so I feel kind of guilty about that.
I can't wait to go though, because it just opened. So to be fair,
that's fair.
The tickets sold out for that Eclipse thing like that
immediately.
So,
yeah. So this will just give you an idea of the space, and maybe we'll have some 3D imagery up. I don't know. Here, fingers crossed. But we're hosting a Hoot and Holler sort of special edition there. Everybody loves Hoot and Holler. And we'll also be at places like Six and Sky, the new rooftop bar, and several other venues which you can look on the website.
This is such a unique way to experience a conference. Whether you're a visitor or a local, you're going to be able to visit maybe new spaces new to you.
Yeah.
And what a great great way to bring in other businesses and people that might not have a chance to otherwise.
Yeah.
And that's really important for that community building thing we're talking about.
Exactly. And there's so many great venues downtown. And whenever I talk to people, then they're like, oh, I've never been there. And I've never been there. I'm like, what? How have you never been there? Like, y'all need to get out more.
Well, so I think our podcast on Friday is going to be mine anyway. I don't know about the rest of them, but the spot on Kirk is where I believe we're headed.
Yes.
And so that's a spot that will be brand new to me, which I feel terrible saying, but this will be my first time in there and I'm really excited.
Well, it's a great venue. And so the spot on Kirk is where our live podcast stage will be, where you can go and listen to this podcast and many other kind of regional favorites on like live. Like it won't be, y'all will record it and put it out later, but
you can cheer in the background.
Yeah,
when
you'll
you
have
listen
a
to it,
live
that'll be
audience. You'll be like, hey, I was there for that.
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool because there are some really good podcasts that have been coming out in the Roanoke region, and we want to support them. But also, you'll talk about great, interesting things that I think would make for a great live experience as well. And so, I've never been to a live podcast, but I've always wanted to because I hear the ones that I love and they're going live. I was like, I always wish they'd come to Roanoke.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to go mobile. It'll be our first time live on site somewhere. And obviously listeners, we're excited about that. We'll be sharing out the episode as soon as it's available, a couple days after the fact. Let me get home and produce it.
Yeah.
But in front of a live audience, that's brand new to me. So I'm totally stoked about it. It's going to be a really good time.
It'll be an experiment for all of us.
I know. I'm keeping Mom on the guest list because I'm still arranging them. That's okay. But it'll be awesome. So a couple more questions before we wrap up, but let's talk cost on this. I think this is a really thoughtfully priced ticket entry fee, honestly.
Well, that's the beauty of it being, through the Roanoke Regional Partnership. We are a nonprofit organization. We are a public-private partnership, so we're funded by 8 localities and about 130 private businesses. So, we don't have the burden that some might have of having to make a bunch of money off of this.
Right.
So, you can come for just one of the days if you can't make it to both for $75, or you can come to both days for $125. That includes, meal vouchers and things for lunch as well as lots and lots of sessions. You get a drink ticket for the happy hour that'll be at Six and Sky on that Thursday, as well as some snacks there. So it includes a lot.
I mean, that's you're going to cost $500 somewhere else in a big city, That's a lot of really great content for a really good price.
Yeah. So we just want people to come out in any way that they can. Even if you can only make it for a few things or some of the highlights that were important to you, then we hope that you'll come.
Yeah. Well, you can't miss it. It's going to be something for everybody, like you said. Okay. So final question, just because we've covered the conference, again, it's May 2 and 3, 2024, coming right around the corner.
Yes.
We're really excited about it. But let's talk about you for a second. Spotlight on you, I know.
Uh-oh.
But I really want to shine a light on the work that you do.
I'm a Virgo. I'm just kidding.
The work that you do with the Roanoke Regional Partnership and Get to Know Noke is critical for our community, I think. And I would really love to learn more. If you don't mind just kind of giving a brief, what is it about your organization that contributes and is so important to Roanoke?
Yeah, I'll try to give a super quick economic development 101. But so the partnership has been around since 1980 or so, and it started more as traditional economic development, where we develop large-scale sites to put big businesses, manufacturers, things like that, and we work with the 8 localities that we represent, everything from Allegheny and Botetourt to Salem to everything in the Roanoke, Circle, Benton, Franklin County, all that. So that's our whole footprint. And we work with the state and global site selectors to showcase the properties that we have, because that's usually where those conversations start with the product. But more lately in the modern era of economic development, the businesses that are looking to relocate really care about talent attraction and your ability to, bring people from the outside in to work for their companies. And because of that, they also care about livability and placemaking efforts. Placemaking is what we were talking about earlier, where you intentionally build thoughtful communities that have sidewalks and greenways and green spaces, as well as, livability amenities like food, nightlife, sports, all those things that make for a well-rounded life, because it makes their job of recruiting people from across the country and the world a lot easier if they can sell that, as well as cost of living and things like that. So we report on those things, but we also try to move the needle. So the Roanoke Outside Foundation is one of our organizations, and we were really the first sort of placemaking brand for Roanoke. Before that, if you would ask people when you would go to conferences around the country and the world, because we do have a lot of foreign direct investment here, so we have, international ties. They didn't know what Roanoke was. They didn't have, it's not that they had a bad impression.
They didn't know.
They just had no impression. And now when we go to those, they talk constantly about the outdoors and the outdoor narrative and what a great place it seems to be, and how, you can live here for, maybe 25% less than if you lived in a place like Asheville, but you still have all the same great amenities. So we've really, that's been our job, to convey that information on a global level. The talent attraction position, which I'm doing now, in particular, has been sort of formed out of the fact that, the placemaking goes part of the way, but we need to do a lot more to showcase and engage with college students as they're coming out, to make them aware of the job potential and opportunities that our employers have. And so that, that's a big part of what I do now. And some of it's just connecting, higher ed folks with employers to integrate them better, so that, as someone graduates, they're ready to go directly into employment. A lot of people, the stats right now for people who are graduating from college aren't great when it comes to they're underemployed is what they say. The bulk of them, or half of them, are underemployed, which means they have a lot more earning potential, but because they aren't gaining the necessary skills to lead them directly to a real job with an employer, then oftentimes that there's a gap, there's a skills gap there. And so they're like, well, they need more experience. And we're like, well, who's supposed to provide that experience? And so I'm at that intersection, convincing employers of what they need to be doing, and convincing higher ed and students and young professionals of what they need to be doing. As well as kind of what we talked about at the very beginning with making resources more readily available and making people informed of what their opportunities are.
That's a really big job. I mean, really, golly, because I think about, so our associate editor, Sarah, she graduated from Roanoke College, and she, kind of did her own thing for about a year. And then I brought her on to our team, and it was like, why didn't we do this the day you graduated college? My gosh. And so to have you as a resource to be able to put employers and, college students or whoever's looking for the job.
Yeah, it's not just college.
Yeah,
it goes well beyond that, but yeah.
Yeah, but to bring those people together is critical for so many reasons. And I love that you're thinking, again, this local level on a global thinking scale. That's really important.
Yes, and that's what we try to do for our region, is we have to position us, and we have to work together, and we have to be collaborative, because each individual entity can't make an impact, but together as a collaborative, we can make an impact, and that's what the partnership is for.
Well, I couldn't say it any better than that. So,
okay.
Listen, so Julia, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
I was like, can we come on? And you shoved us in immediately. So I appreciate that.
No, we're excited. We can't wait to be there, not just for the live audience podcast, but just to be there and experience it, and to be together again, because like you said, it's been a few years since we've all been in a space together, to be excited and talk about all the great things happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It does always leave you feeling like buzz, there's so much more I could be doing. I could be doing this and that. Not that I need more to do, but
no, but come Saturday, I'll have a conference hangover, because I'll be my brain has so many ideas and it's just going to burst because I can't stand it.
You're going to be writing them all down.
Yep. Let's go talk to all those people I networked with in that session. So.
Exactly. That's the hardest part, for the follow-up.
Right? Well, that's what you got the app for. So that's good.
Exactly.
Yeah. Excellent. So listeners, you have been listening to a bonus episode of From Print to Podcast as we chat with Julia Boas, Director of Talent Strategies at Roanoke Regional Partnership, as we share more about the Experience Conference coming up on May 2 and 3 in 2024. We'll be sharing this link on our website with the episode, but if you're already headed to your computer or phone because you're just that excited to get on board, you can learn more about the Experience Conference, including speakers, tracks, how to register, and much more at get2knownoke.com/experience-conference. I know that's a lot. Go to our website, we'll click on it. Or you can just go to get2knownoke.com. I promise you'll find exactly where you need to go. Let's rise together and share our love for Virginia's Blue Ridge. Thanks for listening.